It's easy. Let's see here. Problem solved. There's an old poem. What troubles your mind today? What problems do you find? It just goes on forever when you're lost inside a mind. I hate to have to tell you that your troubles will not end. Because as soon as you solve one, there's another thing to mend. It's the way it is with minds. They always want something to do, so they fix and create problems until your life is through. If you examine your life carefully, I'm sure that you will find your troubles aren't problems. The real problem is the mind. But the mind is so addicted to its problematic ways that it cannot stop creating stuff for you to fix today. So if you're thinking of ways to solve the problem of the mind is not the tool you need, another you must find. If the mind has no solution, then in God's hands it must be. So put your trust in God. You can live a life that's free. This is the thing, when all of the attention goes into the mind, then you're focusing on the virtual reality projector. And the virtual reality machine is absolutely committed to creating and sustaining a virtual reality. So even if you're looking for a way out of this, if you're using the mind to do it, the mind just creates more virtual reality, and then your idea of getting out of it is a part of the virtual reality. You see? And so you never can get out because you're trying to get out from within, you see? And the thing is to realize that that's not you. Your thoughts and your feelings and all the goings on in this body, mind, and around you, this is not who you are. Mm-hmm. This is just a virtual reality show. You're living in a virtual reality show. And you have this episode you call your life, and it's fascinating and it's interesting, but it's not who you are, and it does not deserve the level of attention which you give it. And if the attention diminishes upon this body-mind apparatus, and if you're instead just sitting in the silence where the mind is still and you can see and feel the infinite nature of your true being, instead of this little finite bound character which you've been playing in the virtual reality. You see? So the idea here is to see things for what they are. The one thing the mind is good for is the mind can see what is unreal. The mind is really good at creating the unreal, and the mind can actually see that everything the mind is creating is not real. The mind can see that, okay? And if the mind really gets it, that all of this is an illusion, that none of this is real, that it's all pretend. All of it is pretend. How is it possible that you are just this body-mind? That's not possible. This body-mind didn't exist before you were born. What were you then? It won't exist after you die. What will you be then? You see, there's something more going on here. While you're in this illusion, you think that you are separate. You think you're an individual. You think you're a person with a life. But it's just a temporary thing. You're going to think that for this lifetime. And that's it. And then it'll be something entirely different. You won't have to think about who you are because you'll be who you are. And it won't require any thought. It never did. Thought is only required in the illusion. It's only required in the dream. That's not who you are. So allow yourself to see the unreal as unreal. Constantly to see it as unreal. When you think that it's real, it has terrible side effects. You feel anxiety, you feel worry, you feel angry, you feel happy, you feel all these different things come up, but they're all involvement with a dream, you see. You don't need to be involved with who you are, it's who you are. This is just a dream going on here, and if you can keep your perspective, see it for what it is, it will not have such a strong impact on you. And by that, I mean the negative impact of it's tremendously stressful thinking that you're an individual. I mean, can you imagine a dust speck living on a dust speck, thinking that it's a real thing? How much it must suffer. It does. All these little dust specks are suffering in their own way. But the who that you are isn't suffering at all. So, so use the mind to see what is unreal. Everything the mind is showing you is part of the dream. It's part of the illusion. See it for what it is. It's not bad considering I didn't have much to say. That's the thing, you see. These talks just go on their own. There's no one behind them. They just happen. And it's the same, you see. Your life can just go on its own. You don't have to be involved, personally involved with everything. It'll go on. It's a dream after all. It'll go on its own. You don't have to put any energy into it. It takes care of itself.
What's the right attitude to have toward your mind? Because sometimes I really hate it.
Well, you see, that's the thing to realize is that's the mind, hating the mind. You've never left the mind. The idea is just not to care. Even if you hate it.
But when it's spinning, like it spins you around and you're like, you know it's not real, and it's playing this game with you, and it's just spinning and spinning, and like I'm aware of the facts that it doesn't exist, but it's like sometimes I just say out loud, will you please just shut the fuck up, because it's relentless sometimes, not always, but yesterday I thought, my God, if this thing doesn't shut up, I don't know what I was going to do, but I was not happy. And it seemed like I just went around Robin Hood's barn with it for hours. And so that's why I asked, what's your attitude supposed to be toward this thing? Because it sometimes just runs on its own, is what it feels like. So I guess, how do you get from theory to practice? Because I knew it was just doing its thing, but I was really, really irritated by it.
Vimala.
And yeah.
Ask yourself, who cares? Who cares?
I care.
Right.
Vimala cares. Vimala cares.
You're fighting with yourself. The ego is fighting with the ego. The ego doesn't like how the ego's behaving. The ego wants it to work differently. And so basically, what are you going to get now? More ego. Okay? Let all that go. Don't, it's like you are fully identified with your thoughts. And now you're fully identified with fixing the problem that your mind has created through using the mind. That's exactly the poem that I read.
I know.
You're using the mind. The mind is creating problems, and then you're using the mind to fix the problems, and then there's another, it just goes on forever. So ask yourself, really, who cares? When you get that it's just the ego, you can go, oh, it's just the ego. You see, and then you can create a little bit of distance. What's going on now is full involvement. And so see the involvement as involvement instead of getting more involved with the involvement under the guise of solving the involvement. It's just a joke. It's all a lie. This is not who you are. You're pretending to be this character, and now you're pretending to not like this character and want it to go away, but that's the character. Okay? So basically you're fully into the dream, and your object of getting out of the dream is part of the dream, but you're not seeing that, so you're just more involved with the dream. Even if you get good at this, even if you get really good at the ego repair, and you stop things that are irritating you so much, it's still gonna, it's still more of the same. Okay. So look, you know the truth. You know who that you are is eternal. You know that. You're pretending this character, and you're not liking who you're pretending to be, so you're pretending that you're going to get rid of this pretend character, but that's still the character. So you're just conning yourself, and you're fully involved in the dream. Okay? Watch it go. It has nothing to do with you. None of this has anything to do with you. Okay? You can go to your puja, you can rest in the eyes of your guru. Just be there in that stillness, you see? Let the stuff go on in the distance. It's got nothing to do with you. Why get involved? And always ask yourself, who cares? So you don't fool yourself into thinking that you're doing some great thing. You know, that you're solving your problem. You're not going to solve the problem through the mind. The mind is just going to create more problems for you. That's what minds do. And it's just manufacturing a dream. It's manufacturing a whole world that you can get involved with. But it's all make-believe. It's not real. See it. See it for what it is. This has nothing to do with you. There's nothing for you to fix here. This is just the mind being upset with the mind. The mind doesn't like how the mind's behaving. And you get upset about it. And then you get involved with it. Just involvement. Just more of the same. Under the guise of improvement and taking care of and all this stuff. It's just manufacturing dreams. That's what you're doing. You're just a dream maker, and because you're involved with the dream machine, with the virtual reality projector, you're totally there with it, and in the guise of getting out of it somehow, you just don't want to feel the things that you're feeling. You know, if you didn't mind how you were feeling, if you could accept the way you're feeling, then you wouldn't have to get involved with fixing it. You know, it's just a feeling. All it is a sensation that's uncomfortable. You know, you're going to have feelings that are comfortable. You're going to have feelings that are uncomfortable. You're going to have pleasure. You're going to have pain. All these things are going to go on. Who cares? Who cares? The essence of who you are is everything. I mean, who cares about this little stuff? Who cares about your thoughts and these feelings? You know, one that you like and one that you don't like. How long are you going to bounce around with that? You know, you have the knowledge and you're pretending to be a character. Why continue to pretend? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like you are like pretending to be a child. You see? You're not. You have the knowledge. You know the truth. And you're pretending not to know. And you're letting yourself get away with it. And you're letting yourself convince yourself that this is all real. You're just letting yourself get away with it. It's an old habit. Just break free. Break free. I mean, you don't have to pretend to be small anymore. That's for children. You don't have to do that. Really, you know, this is for everyone. Everyone. You don't have to pretend anymore. It's just a habit. It's just a habit. Let it go and always ask yourself when this stuff comes up, who cares? When you realize who cares, the ego cares. I care. It's like then you realize, it's a joke and the joke's on you.
Well, I think I finally got so exasperated that I just said, so what? You know, like, but I'm like, I was driving around and I was like yelling at it, like, so what? Who gives a fuck? You know, that kind of thing. And
yeah, but that was still giving a fuck.
So what? I'm still talking to the air, right? Like there's nothing there, but
you see, you're so locked in to the personal involvement. Even you're not giving a fuck is a part of giving the fuck.
Shit. Darn it.
This stop letting yourself get away with this. Ask yourself who cares. Who cares? Okay? When you see who cares, you realize, well, that's just an ego. That's not even who I am. You see, and then what happens is if you stay persistent and if you really become ruthless about this, eventually the ego diminishes. It's still there, but it becomes less and less significant. Mm-hmm. And eventually it becomes so insignificant, might as well be nothing. But it's, it's going to be there. All my gurus answer to their name, It's there to a certain degree, but no one is identified with it any longer. This is the thing. You think this is happening to you. You think these feelings and this frustration and all of this drama is happening to you. None of it has ever happened to you. You're much broader than all of this. I could say greater. Who that you are has no boundaries. The who that you think you are is loaded with boundaries. That's all it is boundaries. All of your thoughts are bound to time and space. Everything, all of your feelings, all of them are just limited little expressions that arise in a moment and then subside. And they're always changing. It's entertaining, granted. It is entertaining and it does draw interest and attention. But none of it is you. None of it is you, and it does not deserve the level of attention you're giving it. So it's really, Vimala, it's just time to grow up. This is just child stuff. This is child stuff. This whole mind involvement is, you know better. I know you know better.
I know better too.
So you see,
that was what was aggravating.
But you see, you're playing with yourself, okay? Even that aggravation is part of it. It's not, it's still playing, okay? What if all of these things went on and your place remained constant, always the same, that stillness, that silence? There's stuff going on, there's feelings going on, there's thoughts going on, but they don't draw you in, you see, in personal. So this is the thing. You want to spend as much time as you can with your guru's energy, okay? Just being with that energy, and like at least hourly, being with that energy and not allowing yourself to fall into forgetfulness for such a length of time that the personal involvement goes this deep. And when you get personally involved, just see it for what it is. You're involved with a dream. You're thinking a dream is real. Nothing that the mind is showing you is real. That's not the mind's job. The mind is a virtual reality projector. It shows you virtual reality. And it makes it seem real, but it's only convincing to a mind. And if your full attention is on the mind, then you think it's real. But if your full attention is with that essence that the gurus have shown you, if full attention is on that, then this can't seduce you anymore.
Ananta, I had a similar thing as Vimala, and I was on the dance floor at the park, and and I know you say those thoughts, they'll let them go on, just let them go on, but they were so distracting. I got so caught up in the virtual reality game that it was messing up my steps. This judgment and criticism, you did that wrong. So I finally used a sentence that you taught me, which was, "Who wants to know?"
Yes.
And that stopped in its tracks because there was nothing there. So who wants to know? Thank you for that.
Good. I'm glad it works. I'm glad it works. And you just have to watch out for your imagination, because you've got like this imagination that needs to be on a leash and isn't.
Yeah. Woo.
So you see, just and you don't realize you're just imagining it.
Right.
You see, that's the thing. So
yeah,
you imagine things that have never happened, and you're reacting to them as if they have.
Yeah.
Because your imagination's so strong. So basically, that's what people do in their dreams when they're sleeping, but you do that when you're awake.
Yeah. It's painful.
So it's just remembering. It's just always remembering. And you see, so you have an easy track to remember because you have such a big heart. It's easy for you, easier than it would be for most people. All you have to do is remember the love, and then you're back home, you see. When you forget and you go off into your imaginary world and imaginary situations, and your mind starts to all you have to do is remember the love. And you see? So that's what you want to do.
I like the leash thing too.
Yeah.
I just put a picture of a leash up there. Rain that, yeah.
Capture your imagination, yeah. Rein it in a little bit. Put some boundaries around it.
Yeah.
So when people sleep, they don't have the boundaries around their imagination. You see? And that's why dreams are so interesting, because all of a sudden the boundaries that you have in real life aren't there anymore. And so you get lost in that imaginary world but you have that in your waking state too. So you can it would be, you can try, but the main thing for you is just to remember the love. Whenever you're feeling lost and you're feeling anxiety and you're worried about this and this and that, just remember the love and just bring yourself back to the heart. And then all that will ease on its own. Because I have a feeling you won't be able to rein in your imagination. You'll just be able to distract back to the heart, and then what you imagine will just diminish. You see? So that would be your leash, remembering the love.
Thank you, Nanti.
It's nice because I know all of you so well.
You do.
Your personal advice.
Mm-hmm.
Nanta, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So this is a great subject for me because I suppose over the past 6 or 8 weeks, school has revved up, and I'm teaching full time, and circumstances are sort of bubbling up, and there are a lot of demands. This just the nature of the circumstances, and it's not so much that I'm suffering or angry or sad. It's just a lot. Parents need caring for, students need caring for, computer labs need troubleshooting, and it all seems to be, you know, like this. And there's a flow to it, which I'm grateful for. Somehow everything gets done, and the stuff that doesn't get done doesn't get done. But there's this little worker bee here that's sort of wanting to get things done, wanting to serve the people who need to be served. The downside is it's starting to affect my well-being. You know, it's just the health of the body, just the physical toll, just not enough sleep, not enough time to self-care. And I'm trying to sort this out. It's not so much a spiritual dilemma. It's all, I don't know how to, maybe you can cut through it for me.
Well, I can tell you that when I was in the ashram, they worked us so hard. I never worked as hard in my life. Well, actually, I learned how to work hard from the ashram. It was really, really, like you didn't have time for sleep. You didn't have time for anything. And shit started coming out that would have never come out because, you know, I had it under control. But there was just so much going on that I didn't even have the energy to hold in stuff, you see. So it was actually an opportunity for things to come out and to be like just witnessed that wouldn't have otherwise. Now, the physical thing, you have to do what you can do to keep yourself physically healthy. I don't know what those things are, but you can trust that you're being shown a lot more than you would have had things been nice and mellow for you. You see, so when there's something about the intensity that brings up the intensity of the ego and allows you to see more. Okay, so you can look at it as an opportunity. Physical exhaustion is part of it because when you're physically exhausted, the normal things that you would use to keep things in fail. And so you have this opportunity to see more. And I always say, you cannot accept that which you do not know. And so the more that you know, the more you can accept. And sometimes these situations are given, especially for a spiritual seeker, to expose more so that there's the opportunity to love more. Okay, so why not use this as whatever comes up as there's more to love, okay? So there's things coming up that you're not particularly loving, that are difficult and that are causing repercussions. Just as much as you can, bring them into that space of acceptance more and more, you see. And it won't last forever. School has a break, and I understand that it's physically difficult, and you do what you can to take care of yourself. You know, that's just a function of being in a body. Everyone's doing what they can to take care of themselves physically and emotionally, etc. But at the same time, as much as possible, use this as an opportunity to find more to love. You see, eventually your love will be complete. You see, that acceptance will be complete. But in the meantime, I understand what you're talking about. We're all getting older. We can only take so much physically. But, you know, you do what you can, and you have to put boundaries around certain things that are literally too much physically. but there's also an opportunity here that you don't want to miss out on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Is
look
it,
at it.
is it like a test?
It can be. It can be. It depends on what you're facing. If you're facing an inability to accept what's coming up, then that's the test. Okay? The physical thing that you're describing is more like you may have to put certain boundaries around what you're doing, how you're doing it, and how often. You might have to put some boundaries around it because you're only one person, and the, you know. But when I was in the ashram, you understand, I was younger then too,
Mm-hmm.
so you know my body could put up with a lot more abuse, and but it served me, you see, because stuff came up that never would have come up without that level of intensity. So I believe in living life as intensely as you can. Okay, you might as well, you know, because what's the point otherwise? So don't worry about it. This is what God put in on your plate.
Yeah.
You have to trust that as much as possible, and you do what you need to do to take care of yourself, and at the same time use this as an opportunity to love yourself more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, ultimately, the experience. I said that the experience of the enlightenment was basically just. I had come into full acceptance of myself. You see, so that's all it is just like you can accept every aspect of your being, every aspect of everything, of the dream, of the personality, of the feelings. All of it is to be fully accepted. It is being fully accepted. It's just becoming aware of that is going on all the time. And when you're involved, then it's difficult because you have judgments about it, and you have preferences and desires and things that you want, things that you don't want. Then that interferes with all of it. So just use this as an opportunity and put what boundaries around that you need to. But I think since you're a spiritual seeker, life tends to move in the direction of giving you what you need to move through. Okay? And so it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And you know, the schools, well, it's just beginning now, isn't it?
We're about 6 or 8 weeks into it.
And when does it stop?
It'll stop in December, and I'll have about a month off.
Okay. Well, so there's light at the end of the tunnel. And you just have to see if, you know, so move to the light. Just do the best you can. And really, I do believe that this is an opportunity. And look at it like that. It doesn't mean it's easy. I don't think it's, I think whatever easy stuff there was for you to do on the spiritual path, you've probably already done. So now it's all hard.
I get that.
Yeah, so God is presenting you with difficulty so that you can move through it. And once that happens, it can all be released, but not before.
You know, I will say though, you know, when we talk about December and looking towards December, looking to the light, there's light in every day for me. There is honestly plenty of light. And when you say that it's an opportunity to look at that stuff comes up, because when, you know, when you're bearing that weight of really, it's sort of like a cognitive load, you know, a daily cognitive load. And when you've got that, you know, on your shoulders, you do somehow get a little more vulnerable, more fragile, more, so when you say look at the possibility of things that might be coming up, use it as an opportunity.
Mhm.
And you had said about the ashram, and you don't have to give any like specific details, but like what kind of things are you referring to? What kind of things might come up?
Well, now when I was in we called it learn as you burn. There would be, so Baba was constantly coming up with projects and constantly figuring out a way to destroy them all. And so it was like, dig a ditch, fill it in, dig a ditch. It was all.
That's what it is. That's what it is. It's meaningless. It's all meaningless.
Well, what it is, you see, the one who has that sense of the ego that went into doing something, I'm doing this, and that pride or that disappointment, all of that, it's just ego, you see. So Baba would say, over here, we're going to build the foundation, we're going to put a temple here. And so they tear down the trees, they put in the rebarb, they put in the start it, and Baba would go, no, not here, over here. So out come the jackhammers, and like it was literal. And
Yeah.
those of us on the crew would just be like, dig a ditch, fill it in, dig a ditch. So eventually, the foundation would be built, and Baba would come and he would feel there's no more ego in it, because the people doing it knew that it could just as well be torn down. There was no more pride in it. That was the temple.
You nailed it. You just nailed it. That's it.
So you see, that's your work is your ashram, and this is your lesson. And you see, once the ego's out of it, the whole burden, positive and negative, leaves. You see, yeah. So this is brilliant. It's brilliant setup. You don't need to be in the ashram. You have your own.
But that's it. That's it. That's beautiful. Beautiful.
Excellent. I'm so glad. But that was what it was like in the ashram. And people would be freaking out, you know, and all of us would just sit and laugh at them until they laughed at themselves. And if they couldn't do that, they weren't long for the ashram life. The ones of us that stayed were the ones of us that could laugh at all of it. And the ones that took it seriously, they were gone within a year. It was too much. So keep your humor. It's all a joke anyway. Dig a ditch, fill it in, dig a ditch.
That's great. Thank you.
Good. I'm so glad it worked.
You talk about spiritual seekers.
Yes.
I think about spiritual slacking.
Slacking?
Yeah. You know, when you kind of fall off the cliff and forget it all and have a moment
Yeah,
Yeah. And then you have to remember it all again, but it's very exhausting.
it is. That is exhausting. The whole thing of being identified with the body mind is exhausting. It's a lot of energy, you see. Um, it's a temporary exhaustion, but still.
But do we have divine gifts? Like something that's a gift? And how would you tell the difference between your gift and the personal involvement? Because I think, oh, I'm really good at this. I'm going to be helpful. I'm going to be whatever. And then I think, oh no, there I go again.
Well, yeah, you see, you have to use good discrimination. And you make mistakes around this, but basically, you are a gift, period. And it's true for everyone, you see. What an amazing thing that your heart is beating right now. What is an amazing thing that you have that sense of being, that sense of presence, that you can actually know what it is to be here. That's an amazing gift. And all the other stuff, the fluff around that gift, is just fluff. But that presence is always with you. And that's an amazing thing. This moment right now is incredible. It's so awesome. And every single moment of your life, it's been there. That's amazing. So you see, you just bring yourself back. Don't worry about it. You know, the whole process of life is a process of forgetting and remembering, until you don't forget anymore. But you see, the one who you're not is the one who forgets. And the one who you are doesn't need to remember because it is who you are. So more and more, bring yourself back to the presence of this moment, the true gift that your life offers is that presence, that sense of being. You see, just bring yourself back to center. Mm-hmm. Sweet. Mm.
I'm finding that the social isolation is helping me be more aware of communicating clearly. Because I used to be able to say, oh, come on over. Now it has to be all these conditions, agreements. You know, humans are getting more complicated instead of simple. And what you teach boils it down to the simplicity. But the social scene is becoming very messy.
Well, it just has more boundaries around it than it used to. That's all. So it has more rules.
Mm-hmm.
It always had rules, you were just used to them. Now it has new ones that you're not used to. So they seem more difficult. You know, all societies have different rules. I remember there was a tribe in South America where, you know, like how you feed a baby, you know, baby has to be fed. Well, I guess they were fed by someone else their whole lives. No one ever fed themselves. Someone always fed the other person. So if one of them were out in the jungle alone, they would literally starve to death if they stayed alone. So all these things, they have different rules, and that you get used to, and they become how you live your life. That's all. So it's interesting, I think. I don't seem to miss it. I liked seeing you all and having physical darshan. Yeah, but I don't miss it either. So it's okay, and this makes it actually available to more people who couldn't come because of the distance and other difficulties. So it's just different rules. You were struggling with it a lot initially, and now you seem to have settled into it more.
Well, yeah, you ask somebody to go to the grocery store and you say, well, I got an ice chest out in my front yard. You can put whatever, you know, there's so many complications. And I don't know if it's really making a difference.
Well, there's one way to find out.
No, I guess if you're not sick, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, that's what they say, you know, and the masks apparently are supposed to be helpful, and yeah, you're just doing the best you can. You see, there's stuff can happen. Stuff does happen. So you just do the best you can and hope for the best. And if you're meant to live, you'll live.
I had heard through, I think it was Ayurveda, that you're born with a certain number of breaths, and you use them as you use them, and then you eventually use them up.
That sounds good. That sounds correct. I think just as your time and date of birth is in the script, I think the time and date of death is in the script as well. You know, the time is a deception, you see. Time is just this, it's something that Nisargadatta says is created by the mind, you see, and it makes it all seem real because now you have this history, and you have this sense of things that have happened to you, and now that's you. That's proof that it's you. But really, you see, everything that is going to happen has already happened. There's a script somewhere. You're living out the script as if when you're watching a play, you don't know how it's going to end, but the script is there and the ending's there, but you're watching it and going through it, each chapter, and until it's done. And that's how this life is. But the truth is, everything has already happened. It has to be. Everything has already happened. There's a place beyond time. Time is a limitation. There's a place beyond time, which means that everything that could happen has already happened. It's already there. So just more and more, be present in your moments. And if you know for sure, if you can feel in your gut that all of this is already in the script, then you needn't worry about it. It's all going to turn out the way God intends. Absolutely going to turn out the way God intends. So you see, you put a lot of energy into it going a particular way, and it's the body is designed for sustenance, for continuation, it does everything it can to survive. Eventually it fails. But it is designed to continually have that survival. If it didn't, probably they'd kill over way too early. It'd be like crib death or something. You just forget to have your heartbeat, forget to breathe, whatever. So I'm just, Ramesh really, really stressed that everything is God's will. Everything is God's will. And what it did was it took out that whole thing I had going of it being my will, of I was doing something, of that what I wanted mattered. And that the fact that I did it well or that I did it poorly, all the repercussions from that, it didn't matter, you see, because everything's in God's hands. It lightens your load a lot. So if you can live with that sense of that everything is already set up, it's all determined. And it lightens your load.
Some people seem happier than others, just natural. But you're saying we all have equal peace. Is that correct? We all have been given the opportunity to feel that oneness, whether you're happy or not.
What I'm saying is you are that oneness, whether you know it or not. So you see, that oneness, that sense of being is always present. Your personal awareness of it comes and goes. Now, you have certain conditioning in your life, you have certain things in your genes that will determine your level of personal happiness. But, personal happiness comes and goes, and it wavers and it changes. You see, some people start out really happy, And they get older and they get really miserable and grumpy. You see? It's just the way it is. No, you see, you have someone, even like Nisargadatta, who was obviously in a constant state of bliss, but he got pissed off all the time. Now, he wasn't involved with it, but that was his personality. That was just how he was made. His conditioning, his way. He liked to pick arguments with disciples. He liked to argue with them. He wanted someone to be contrary so he could argue with them and prove his point with you. You see? He enjoyed that. That was his particular method, a very unique method of teaching. You see? But it taught everyone. So personal happiness is just what it is. It's not, it's got nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about personal happiness. I'm talking about a state of being. It's not even a state. It's a place of just being. So, look, it's really simple. It's so fucking simple. Just stop thinking. For one moment, let the mind stop. Light switch to the mind. One moment. You see? There's peace there. There's true peace there. Let that be where you put your attention. When you put your attention on your thoughts and feelings, you're putting your attention on chaos. Okay? It's getting like that with the news now. So the mind is not a peaceful place, but the place where you source, where you came from, that stillness, when the mind stops, all there is peace. That's all that's there. So it's just this incessant attention on your thoughts and feelings that causes this discomfort through life. I'm not talking about personal happiness, because personal happiness comes and goes. I'm talking about a place which never changes. Right now, this moment right now, never changes. It is always now. It's always here. It's always here. And there is the peace. It's not even your peace, it's the peace. It's something beyond personal. It's the essence of everything. And you have this gift of being connected with that and being aware of your connection with that, you see. Because that peace is everything. It doesn't need to be aware of its existence. But there's this illusion of separation which causes an awareness of that essence of who you are. So keep it in the forefront.
Hi, Ananta.
Yes,
Can I ask you a question?
I hope you do, yes.
It's like, it's not, I feel like it's not a fun question, but for me, but because of what it's around. And And at the same time, I just know it's not going to go if I ask it. If I don't ask it.
Please.
It's good to see you.
Likewise, I've been wondering about you.
Thank you. Yeah, I work on Thursday nights usually, and I wasn't feeling well last Sunday. I think I might have woken up after. I'm not sure. Insomnia is a thing. I watched the one of the videos, the links, and the Ramana documentary, which is great. I didn't know about it because it's only from, I think I've watched other ones from before, but this is pretty relatively new. And I'm not even, the question I'm going to ask is not even like the most, you know, important or interesting out of any of it, but it's what's here. I'm embarrassed about that, but it's fine. So one thing that he said, which I didn't know, so I mentioned that I had a teacher from the past, and he was in Ramana's lineage, non-lineage. His teacher was Papaji, Punjaji.
Right.
And so in that, and I didn't know it started from Ramana, he did not accept any kind of donation. In fact, if someone gave it to him, he would come and he'd give it to whoever needed it the most in the Sangha. And that was because of Papaji. And I don't know if Ramana ever said that to Papaji, but it sounds like Ramana also didn't. And so that's what the mindset that I'm used to. And then I also know that it sounds like that's not what Nisargadatta did. And it sounds like that's not what you do. And I want to make sure I'm doing what's right. I'm fine with whatever it is, but I don't know if I'm, you know, why I say it's not fun, it's money. I'm not comfortable, or it's not fun talking about money, but it's also good because it doesn't have to be so complicated.
Well, Ramana, first of all,
Yeah.
Ramana accepted money, but he refused to ask for it. He would never ask for it. They would do big construction projects with no money at all, and miraculously, the money would be donated. Okay, so it was the same thing with Shree. Shree never asked for money, and you know, I went to his ashram several times, left, you know, a little bit, like a polite amount, and then the last time I was there, I was just moved to leave a large amount. I left like $1,000, and which at the time was a lot of money for me. And so I come to find out, you know, he died just a few months after that, and they needed the money, so it was there for that big deal that happened with the Mahasamadhi. You know, but this is how it works. Now, Baba was much more clear about it. He had lots of $1 million people around, millionaires, major donations, lots. He was a rich sadhu. No, he didn't handle any of the money. He had people who did that, and created a foundation. You know, I knew all those people. So there was no connection personally with the money, but of course he benefited, and the whole organization did, and you could have people like me around. Now, I didn't have money. I donated energy. I did seva. I worked and worked and worked. I made things happen in the ashram, kept it running. So you see, and the money was there for people like me, a lot of people like me, who were able and willing to give energy, and then other people gave money, and then the construction. It was a constant. It was like a construction site. There was always something being built, always something being torn down. There was all this stuff going on. It's different around different gurus. Okay, by and large, most enlightened beings don't they don't ask for anything, but there's always there was always a donation basket, something at each temple has a big, like, usually silver box and for donations. People put it, and they're usually obviously loaded with money. So everyone got the hint, that helps it. That's what keeps it going. If there's no energy going in, it makes it impossible for that to go out. Then they become like there's many sadhus who are just kind of like freelance. They're just wandering sadhus, but once it gets into a stable thing, it needs money for it to continue. So, so that's there. Trust me, there's not that much money coming in. I mean,
I'm not even thinking about that. Yeah, it's more like
work full time to keep myself supported. But
I didn't hear the word you said.
I have to work full time to keep myself supported. And this isn't doing it.
Right.
But
yeah.
What was your question about this?
Yeah, I guess the question was, I wanted to make sure I mean, my wording is just what it's going to be, that I'm doing what's right. And I'm used to, it not being accepted. And then I want to make sure whatever I'm doing is not offensive. And I kind of reached out and was wondering that. I don't know what's offensive or not. If it's offensive that I didn't know, I didn't understand it up until this point. And I also don't want to just do it without understanding and feel like there's this kind of, I just want to feel at ease with whatever is happening.
Well, then do, because there's no way to offend an enlightened being. It can't happen. So you don't have to worry about that. And everyone just does what they feel is appropriate. I treat everyone the same because my place is, we all are the same. So it doesn't matter. I have no personal involvement in any of it. I'm always grateful if there's a donation, I appreciate it. But I don't expect it, I don't demand it, and I don't care. And it's not like I have any judgment whether there is or isn't. I don't. I don't have any judgment toward any of you about anything.
It's helpful because it's tricky, especially with, it's probably different if one has a lot of money, and I'm sure people have all their stuff around money, even if they have a lot of money, but it's that is it enough? Is it worse that I give this amount if this is what I can, you know what I mean? So, and I know that's all my stuff. I guess I wanted to know if it's all just my stuff.
Yep, it is.
I'm feeling it. Okay. That's helpful.
None of it is coming on from this end or little organization we have, which is just Steffi and Mark. None of it's coming from their end either. We have the donation button to make it available. It's just like at the ashram, there was at the talks, at actual physical satsang, there at the door was a wooden bowl and it said donations, and people would leave money in there, for satsang. And some people would leave nothing. Some people have come to hundreds of satsangs and never left anything. And some people have been extremely generous, really just mind-blowing. And, but mostly it's in between.
I hope that was too. For me, it's such an awkward question to ask. So I know for me, but I really appreciate getting to talk to you about it.
Yeah, it's no issue at all.
Yeah.
It's not a non-issue except for your personal self-judgments about it. Okay, that's all. And like I said, so, and it was the same thing with Ramesh. We had a personal relationship, and it was like, he took me in, he and his wife Sharda took me in like family. It was never an idea of money. I left him when Sharda was, she had an aneurysm and she was in the hospital, and I heard that it cost $50,000. And in India, health insurance stops at age 60.
Really? I didn't know that.
There's no health insurance after that. That's their system. And so I gave him a large chunk of money, like $10,000, because of that.
Yeah.
For Sharda. But that was the only time I had ever given money. But, you know, of course, I had him over to my house when he came to Maui. You know, had him over a couple of times, he and Sharda, and that was my pleasure, just like it was for them when I was over at theirs. So it's some things, you know, this isn't about money. Money's nice when it happens, it's fine. And if it doesn't, it's fine too. You don't have to worry about it. You'll do whatever you feel is right. And that's it. And when I was at the Ramana ashram, I actually, I asked about making a donation because no one asked me. And then they said, fine. Sure. And, you know, so like that. But it's really just something that's between you and you. Ah,
Thank you.
good to see you anyway.
Good to see you. That's definitely not what I got the most out of the videos, but like that's this thing that's been up, and I wanted to.
No, it's fine. It's fine, and it's different. It's different with all of them. You know,
Yeah.
people have different ethic, different way, and that's fine.
Thank you.
Ah. Easy relief. Good.
Can I ask a whole different question?
Yeah, sure.
And it came up in response to something you said to somebody else. I think it was Tracy, around the script being written. I've struggled with these different ideas, and I can see how that helps about, you know, not then thinking I created something, right? I did something wrong, therefore. But also when, I'm not even sure I fully understood it. So I would love to know, you know, when I had the hardest time of all of my life, or maybe that time is now, I'm not sure, but what I thought of as the hardest time, I'm just laughing about it now, and I wasn't then. I did feel like, I mean, I was part of what I was so upset about was I feel like God did this, you know, and why would God do this to me? And this was so horrible. Like everything was getting better and better and better in my life. And then I went, you know, and why would God do that? And then, well, I guess then it can go back to that. What did I do to deserve that? But still there's, or even if not that part, why would God do that to me? Why? And then that script, the idea of the script becomes complicated too. And it felt like then I'm upset with God if I think that way. I don't know. Does that make sense what I'm trying to sort of ask? I'm not even sure what my question is exactly, but
You're looking at it from your personal perspective.
Yeah.
And saying, well, I don't like it. Why did God do this to me? you know, and if I like it, I'm so glad God did this to me. You see, it's all from your personal perspective. You understand that in every single case so far, a body is born and a body dies. And usually the process is difficult. And everyone dying could say, why is God doing this to me? From your personal point of view, okay, but you know, it's in the script. Okay, it's in the script as soon as you were born that you were going to die. Okay, now the process is in the script too. The body's born with certain defects, and you've had certain conditioning that has brought certain things on, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, it's a process. Look, there's people with really horrible lives where terrible, terrible things happened. You see, and you think to yourself, why did God do that to them?
Yeah.
So you see all these things, but you're looking at it from a personal perspective and from what you think is good and what you think is bad. But all of these are just experiences, and people signed up for different things. Okay, so someone said, oh, I want to be in an Alfred Hitchcock movie this life. I want to be in a horror movie. I want to experience this. I want to experience that. Okay, all these different experiences were available. Some of them were pleasant. Some of them were difficult. But you see, from your personal point of view, you have your preferences. But everything is really the same. Okay? There are things that are unpleasant. There are things that are pleasant. There's pleasure, there's pain. But they're just sensations. Now, from a personal point of view, you pick and choose and you say, I want this, I don't want that. How do I get rid of this? How do I get that? And then you have this drama called life, and you succeed or fail at bringing yourself pleasure or pain, but they're just sensations. And if you take the mind out of it, they're just sensations. They're not good and they're not bad. Okay? So you're trying to hold God to your personal standards of what you think is good and what you think is bad, and saying when things go badly, why did God do this to me? Well, why not? Why not? There's probably a script of your life, and you said, oh yeah, this will work. And it had the good, the bad, and the ugly in it. And so you got the package. This is your package deal, and you're going to get through to the end. And that's it. It's all in the script. It's all set up. And you know what? You are not this dream character. The who that you are is the who that you were before you were born, and the who that you will be after you die. It's not affected by any of this. And it may well be that the difficulties are the things that send you home. They're like, look, you know, without the difficulties in my life, I wouldn't have, the enlightenment never would have happened. It was through the difficulties, through the suffering, that it really forced me into the hard stuff, to let it go, you see, to actually disassociate from all of it, you see. But had that difficulty not happened, had the stuff that I really hated at the time not happened, I don't think the enlightenment could have happened, because it wouldn't have brought out that desire, and it wouldn't have caused an actual letting go, you see. So be grateful for all of your experiences. They're what show you the way home. Okay, now, you know, working in the ashram, that was some hard shit. That was really difficult. I mean, we had to go through so much. We couldn't there was not enough sleep. There was no way to possibly get it done. And everyone around us was crazy. And the people in charge of us didn't know what they were doing, and just a mess. Okay, and everything was wrong, and you had to go through that. You just had to go through it, and then find your way to not make that the thing. Okay, so if your life is just easy and la-di-da-di-da and exciting, and you're looking forward and you're doing it and everything's going well, and you know, you would have no interest in this spirituality. Things are going good. So you see, it's the difficulty that shows you the way home. You know, it helps. So don't begrudge it, and don't hold God to your standards. Please don't hold God to your standards. You know, because God's operating from an entirely different plateau. All right, and God's not seeing through your judgments, through your mind's judgments, which are only designed to protect your body. So when things aren't going well for you, and you think it's a threat to you, you think it's bad. But you know, God has other plans, and God doesn't see it that way. God doesn't see anything as good or bad. Thank God. Did that help at all?
It does. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's fine. God's will is to be accepted. And then you see, everything is just the way it is. Things are sometimes very uncomfortable, and sometimes they're very comfortable. What are you going to do?
Ananta, could you read the poem again?
Probably. Let's see.
Because I don't know.
Okay.
I would like to hear it again, because I'd like to settle it in a little better.
Yeah, it's good for you. Okay, it's titled Problem Solved. What troubles your mind today? What problems do you find? It just goes on forever when you're lost inside a mind. I hate to have to tell you that your troubles will not end, because as soon as you solve one, there's another thing to mend. It's the way it is with minds. They always want something to do, so they fix and create problems until your life is through. If you examine your life carefully, I'm sure that you will find your troubles aren't problems. The real problem is the mind. But the mind is so addicted to its problematic ways, it cannot stop creating stuff for you to fix today. So if you're thinking of ways to solve the problem of the mind is not the tool you need, another you must find. If there is no solution, then in God's hands it must be. So put your trust in God, and you can live a life that's free.
Thank you. The word addiction, I think, is interesting because it's almost like we're all addicted to the thoughts and the whole thing.
It does seem like that, yes. It does.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful drug.
Very. It's like the whole thing is a drug, like everything.
Yeah, but you don't need a prescription.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I piggyback on that idea of the addiction?
Sure.
And that is this notion that we're actually addicted to incarnating in a way, that this, and the body dies. And I've just read this in different places, and I'm sort of putting it together myself. So, but when the body dies, then there's the light body or the consciousness or whatever, this little web of ideas. It sort of perpetuates itself, out of an addiction to sort of finish unfinished stuff, or satisfy itself, or find its place in some way, or unfinished business. And that, so the addiction continues even after the body dies.
Well, that's the karma. You see, there's other energies in life. Karma continues after. Mm-hmm. Now, you see, you're thinking of life as a continuation of personal experiences. The personal experiences are simply a part of the dream. So in that dream, when you personalize your actions, they create karma out of that sense of doership. And the karma does continue. And it's a driving force in the recreation, in the reincarnation. But you understand, you're not who you think you are now. So there's no way you can be who you might think you are in some future body or some past body. It's all a dream. So just because you go to sleep every night and have dreams doesn't mean that you're any of those characters, but the dreams continue. Okay? They may be different, but they continue. So it's all within the realm of that the sustenance. This world has an energy of continuation, of sustenance. It keeps moving. There is this sense of movement here, and it keeps moving, and it doesn't stop, okay? So even if your mind stops, even if you stop, even if it all stops for you, the world continues. There's this motion that is continuing. Really what's going on is this stillness and silence. But because it is everything, within that everything, there is something that appears to have movement, okay? But it's a little something, very minor. It exists on a dust speck somewhere we call Earth. And there's this movement there. And so you see, it's just a part of the whole, but a very small part of the whole. And within that movement, there are certain energies. There's a sustenance. There's a continuation, you see? And there's an aspect of grace to it, an aspect of concealment to it. It's just like the Shiva Nantaraj, where the Shiva Nantaraj, you have Shiva dancing, there's big, like sun all around, and Shiva's foot is on a baby. That's the destruction. There's the creation, the destruction. The dance is the sustenance. The hand out is grace. The leg and arm crossed are concealment. And that's the life. That's this particular movement in symbology, how it works. So you're describing how the dream world works, but it's just a dream world. It's a little world on a dust speck, and there's little dust specks on the dust speck experiencing that movement, but that's not where it's at. That's not where you're at. So within that, though, there's this birth and death and rebirth and whatever you want to imagine is there, but that's got nothing to do with you, because you're beyond all that. Only little individual dust specks were born and died and reborn perhaps, but they don't even have there's nothing about them that's real. It's just a dream. Within that movement, the whole movement is a dream, because all there really is stillness. So you look at outer space, and all there is just a space, nothing. And there's tiny little dots in that space, within which there is some movement. But basically, all there is that space, stillness. You see, so it's just we're here in this movement, and within that movement, there's a sense of duality, of separation, of me and you, of God and me. All of it's, you see, but it's just a dust speck illusion. It's just a dream within this massive stillness. So if you just let the dream go on, but it's got nothing to do with you. So you were never born. You could never be reborn. The reincarnation happens, but there is no one. It's just a dream.
That's exactly right there. What you just said, reincarnation happens, but it's just a dream. I'm having to grasp that. I guess deep down I have some sort of concern that part of this is going to is just going to remain entangled out of ignorance. There's some sort of ignorance that I don't know, that got me here. There's some sort of ignorance that got me here. If I had known better, I wouldn't have pursued that. And somehow I sort of feel like I know better, but I doubt myself.
All of that is a part of the identification. The doubt is the ego, okay? All of that is a part of personal identification with the individual, with separation, okay? Doubt is your clue. Doubt and fear, those are things that are core to that personal identity and that sense of separation. Okay, so just, it's okay, you can release that. It doesn't really matter because it's not happening to you. And those entanglements are not yours. And if they remain after you die, they were never yours, and you never died because you were never born. There's just this movement going on. And the sustenance of that movement includes this energy which you call entanglement, which I'm calling karma, just continues. So don't worry about this, because it has nothing to do with you. And the entanglements, all of that can go on without you. They'll go on without you. Even an enlightened being is still subject to the karmas they were born into. They just don't create any more of them, you see? And any karmas that they have created are no longer attached to any individual at all, you see? So it dissipates. You don't have to worry about this. This is the one who's concerned is the one who you're not.
Yeah. And the key word is doubt, because who has the doubt?
Exactly. Exactly. Doubt is a real, it's basically like a yield sign that the ego sets up to stop. It's like, oh, you don't want to go there. So it brings up doubt. And doubt is never the kind of thing that you want to put any energy into, because doubt is like it's a stop sign. You know, if you're in a relationship and you have doubts, it's in trouble. If you have a job and you doubt your abilities, well, you're going to have some problems. Doubt is definitely something you don't want to engage in your life. You see, so when I was at the ashram and I had a decent job, career-bound kind of job, and a child care worker, and it's like I had things were moving ahead, and I was at the ashram, but I wanted to be with Baba. I loved him so much, and I was thinking about that decision. What do I want to do? And it was the first time I ever heard a voice, a spiritual voice, and it just said, "Go with the love in your heart, not the fear in your mind." You see? So it was like, forget about the doubts and just move ahead with this thing, even though it didn't make sense in the logical way. You see, it just made sense here in my heart. So, yeah. So that was a guidepost to how I ran my life from then on.
Ananta, I sure hope you put this video up on YouTube, because I'm going to listen to it 10 times. This was a big one for me.
Okay, I'll take that under advisement. You'll have to hear yourself say that 10 times then.
I look forward to it.
Okay. Anyone else? Good then. We'll sit quietly for a short time and take advantage of this moment just to be in the moment. Just to be in the moment. And it's all right. Your thoughts and everything can come back later. Just take a few minutes just to be still. And allow the mind to take a break.